Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This week we're going to talk about benefits. We're going to complete our full circle of our of putting together our employees' compensation packages. We talked about calculating pay and our compensation process last week. This week we're going to talk about benefits. It's all the rest of the stuff that makes work a little less insufferable as we go about our lives while working. So we're going to go ahead and get started here today. Now, when we talk about benefits, there's two different frames I want you to keep in mind. The first is the frame of why organizations should offer benefits in the first place, right? Almost never is stuff like this offered out of the goodness of the organization's heart. As much as I want to go to bat for public and nonprofit organizations and their altruistic motivations, there's always some sort of business case for the sort of stuff that we do. Benefits are a key component in this. That benefits prevent us from having to rehire and retrain employees. The lost costs, both hard costs and calculatable costs, and the soft costs that may be a little less quantifiable of replacing employees is incredibly expensive and incredibly costly to an organization. So instead, we offer benefits as a way to try to retain and motivate our incumbent employees. So the other thing I want you to keep in mind, both for this, for last week when we were talking about compensation, for all the different things that we're going to talk about going forward, is go way back to the beginning of the semester when we're talking about our Strategic Human Resource Management program, right? Our SHRM program. What are the strategic outcomes that our human resources team must help achieve to help advance the organization? Benefits are a part of that. There are reasons. There's a type of culture that an organization wants to create. There's retention, specific employees and specific worker groups that you have to design your benefits packages around in order to achieve those strategic outcomes. So keep those sort of things in mind as we go forward, as we discuss our benefits. It should be a relatively quick lecture today, so let's go ahead and get started. So benefits are the indirect compensation that go along with your pay, right? So in total, your pay and then these indirect benefits are included in your total compensation package. Sometimes it's called a total benefits package or a total rewards package. These are the sort of things that you essentially say, when you work for us, you receive these things. Some can be required by law, such as Social Security, and some are a little more discretionary, such as health insurance. Benefits are not just this cool, fun thing to have on the side, especially in the public and nonprofit sectors. It's actually a critical part of the pitch that we make to attract new employees. And we spend upwards of 40% of the cost of any given employee's benefits package goes towards these indirect compensation benefits, right? Benefits are critical for attracting high quality applicants, retaining workers, and motivating and rewarding our incumbent employees. Please watch this video on the social safety net. It's absolutely wonderful. Very, very obviously made for kids, but a really good breakdown of the purpose behind some of these larger policies that we're going to talk about here in a second. When I said that public and nonprofit organizations make benefits a key part of their pitch, I was not joking. Across all of these different types of benefits, the public sector consistently beats out the private sector in terms of how often an organization has this sort of benefits. We're talking about everything from an employee assistance program that helps with therapy and mental health, to on-site stress management, to helping your employees quit smoking, on-site medical and fitness centers, credit counseling. This is all a huge part of why people have traditionally come to work in the public or nonprofit sectors. Is the pay may not be great, but come work for the government because the benefits are excellent. We've talked at length this year so far about this idea, right? That why are government organizations struggling so much to keep up in this new workforce that we're living in? And the reality is that the sort of stuff that the public sector has traditionally relied on to attract employees is just not as attractive to the younger generations as we would think, meaning that we consistently have a workforce that is older, and that is closer to retirement. And so we design our culture, and we create a work culture around the people who are working there, and it makes it harder to attract those younger people. We'll talk a little bit. We'll come full circle on this and talk about this at the end, but I just want you to keep that in mind as we're talking about all of these different types of benefits. There's so many different types of benefits that this is just the start. We have health insurance, we have retirement and pensions, PTO, paid time off, a child and elder care, flexible scheduling, education assistance, all of this sort of stuff, all can go into a benefits package. All employers, regardless of your sector, are required to contribute to Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, workers' comp, health care, military leave, and family leave, at least unpaid under FMLA. And then public employers may also be required to offer retirement and disability benefits as well, depending on the state that they are in. Social Security is the granddaddy of them all, pun absolutely intended. Social Security is the foundation of our social safety net. It is the policy that FDR anchored his New Deal with the American people on it. This idea that when you hit a certain age, or if you are destitute and are unable to work for yourself, that our society, our workforce has a moral obligation to take care of you at that point. And so Social Security is a benefit that you pay into. Everyone is required to pay into it, and it ultimately pays out four different types of benefits. You either get your old age or disability benefits. So those are the ones that when you hit a certain threshold, whether it's your age or a disabling condition occurs, you receive Social Security benefits. There are also benefits for the dependents of retired and disabled workers. There's benefits for the survivors of a worker who may die. And then there's also a lump sum death benefit that are all part of the original Social Security Act. Social Security is so pervasive that regardless of what you think of it as a policy, people have designed their lives intentionally or unintentionally around this idea that they're going to retire, at least aim to retire at 65, and they'll start collecting Social Security and be able to go about their lives from there. From a policy perspective, if any of you are interested in policy, especially when we're talking about human services and Social Security and social safety net, social welfare policies, Social Security is a fascinating policy to look into, both from a financial perspective and also, uh, it's been around for so long that it's gone through many evolutions of how Social Security looks. So I strongly recommend, if you are interested, looking more into Social Security. And then we have Medicare. Medicare is the federal program that pays for health expenses for individuals 65 or older. Only certain health expenses, as there's additional Medicare supplement plans that certain people buy into. But Medicare in general is basically health insurance for people who are 65 or older. The funding directly comes from payroll taxes. The rate of the Medicare tax is 2.9%. This is another thing that, along with Social Security, people build their lives around being able to collect and use Medicare when they turn 65. Then we have unemployment. Unemployment is kind of weird to put into benefits, but it is absolutely something that organizations need to think about. So unemployment compensation is essentially providing a portion of wages to employees who have been laid off until they find another job, or they max out their time in the given state. There's a federal and state partnership based off of a federal law that creates the unemployment system, but states have pretty unilateral authority into how they are to administer an unemployment program. Nonprofits can choose not to participate and instead reimburse the state directly only for the claims of their past employees. Nonprofits, through the entire theme of this is that nonprofits actually kind of exist in their own bubble when it comes to benefits, but unemployment is definitely something that you have to keep in mind, and it's one of those costs that you have to consider, that ideally helps deter organizations from laying off their employees, because they would have to pay them still. And then we have workers' compensation. This is an employer-financed insurance program that provides compensation to employees who are unable to work because of an injury or illness they received on the job. This is a really important component of our health and safety at the workplace. This is a policy that ideally wants organizations to protect and take care of their employees, or they will end up having to pay their workers' compensation because of an injury or illness they received. Um, Workers' comp was a huge when COVID first hit. It was huge in the news because the Biden or the yeah, once Biden came in 2021, the Biden administration attempted to make being vaccinated part of a risk, and getting sick on the job is part of the risk that's inherent as a way to get employers to encourage their employees to get vaccinated. That got held up in the courts, but as you can see, it was this interesting tool that the government tried to use to encourage organizations to take care of their employees' health and safety. Most states have their own laws and administer the program for workers' comp, and this program varies state to state. Honestly, the best way to understand workers' comp is to just at your workplace or at a workplace you're interested in working for, going and talking to them about their workers' comp policy. Um, Also, critical to understand, independent contractors do not have to be covered under workers' comp because they are technically not responsible for the working conditions for an independent contractor. That's a whole different thing, but just an extra dynamic to keep in mind here. Then we have health insurance. Health insurance is the huge one. Health insurance is where most of the costs of an organization towards benefits. This is where most of it goes. There are a number of different types of health insurance plans. Let's see if I can remember all these off the dome. We have a health maintenance organization plan, an HMO, and then you have a preferred provider organization, or is it organization, something like that, preferred provider, and then you have a POS, which is generally providing broader coverage in a more specific area. PPO is the opposite. It's less coverage, but you have more options as to where you can get care. Then you have high deductible health plans, which are generally the cheapest type of policy that a lot of younger individuals will take advantage of. These different types of health insurance plans each have a cost and benefit that goes into it. But there's a number of policies you have to be aware of when it comes to health insurance. So first is the COBRA Act. So the Consolidated Omnibus Budget and Reconciliation Act, COBRA. This is actually part of an omnibus package that wasn't ever directly, this was just something that was lumped in, but COBRA essentially allows for the temporary continuation of coverage upon separation from an employer, right? So this gives you a buffer period if you are to leave an organization, a buffer period to continue to receive your health benefits, in the hope that you will receive a new job with new benefits within that coverage period. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA. HIPAA allows employees to switch plans regardless of their pre-existing conditions, and it also prohibits group plans from dropping sick employees. HIPAA is also the thing that a lot of people will cite as a reason to protect their individual health information, which is another important part of HIPAA. Then you have the Mental Health Parity Act of 2008. This is insurance must provide the same coverage for mental illness as it does for physical illness before the MHPA. A lot of organizations were offering pennies on the dollar to cover mental illnesses as opposed to physical illnesses. And then you have the Affordable Care Act of 2010, and as of 2015, companies with 50 or more full-time employees must offer health insurance or face penalties. Now, some organizations may still choose to pay the cost of the penalties as opposed to offering the insurance, but the idea behind the ACA, as it comes to when it comes to organizations like this, is that it is trying to deter them from opting out of health insurance benefits. Then there's other health benefits. You have your dental, you have your vision, and you have your prescription drug, all of which are very common in a typical health insurance package. Now, when we talk about nonprofits, the considerations are a little bit different. For example, 79% of employees would prefer benefits over a pay raise, and 40% of them remarked on better health insurance, right? The top contributor to job satisfaction and retention is health insurance. Higher job satisfaction leads to higher productivity. So especially for nonprofits that may not be required by law to offer as many of these benefits as others, there is a direct link between offering health benefits and higher productivity in your workplace. And so when we're talking about health insurance in the nonprofit sector, we have to think about the cost, right? That's always what we're talking about with nonprofits. So on average, employers pay $5,179 annually to cover a single employee and about $12,591 to cover families. Now remember, this is just the employer's component of it. The employee will also be paying their component of it through their paycheck in general, through a deduction on their paycheck. Um, this is a huge cost. This is really expensive, especially if you have an organization with a larger amount of employees. But the cost of replacing workers who leave a nonprofit is 20% of a worker's salary. There's also a productivity loss when they leave, and the new hire has to get back up to speed, get uptrained. And then there's the hiring and training costs in general that you have to spend either through your HR team, through external training you may have to offer. So while it may be easy to look at health insurance and see this massive cost, there's costs hidden behind losing employees as well that you don't really want to have. So nonprofits offer some different types of health plans. It's important to think about them in different ways. So the first is group health insurance, which is uniform coverage that offers both individuals and families the same benefits. Um, through these group health plans in 2015, the average annual premium was 6,251 for a single employee, and 17,545 for a family, but will rise year over year. And so it's something that you have to factor in when you're strategically planning out your budget and what you need to be able to manage. Um, and generally, group health insurance pays 83% premium, 83% of the premium for for individuals, and 72% premium for the families. There's also a health reimbursement arrangement. This is a unique one that you don't see often in the public sector, but you will see in the nonprofit sector, which is essentially nonprofits will give employees a tax-free allowance towards out-of-pocket medical expenses and premiums. And so this is essentially a stipend you receive to take care of your health care. Employees will buy their own health insurance. Um, Using this stipend. This allows nonprofits to control the costs of the health insurance and help predict future costs because they're only paying a flat rate as opposed to having to understand really what the market where the market is at. And so there's definitely costs and benefits, pun directly intended here. But there's definitely costs and benefits to something like an HRA, but it is something that you'll see in a lot of nonprofits. Um, when you have less than 50 employees in a nonprofit, you're often going to see a marketplace group plan, which is where you purchase state or federally run group health insurance through these group plan options, these marketplaces. And if you're less than 25, you may be able to access a small business healthcare tax credit, which can cover 35% of your employer paid health insurance premiums as part of a tax write-off. So for smaller organizations, there are options, but when you get to larger organizations, you're looking more at this HRA and your group health insurance coverages. So nonprofits a little bit different, but still an important component of why we have to have insurance as part of benefits packages in general. Getting back to our benefits in general, let's talk about military leave and FMLA. We've talked about FMLA. This is the providing unpaid leave for medical leave for up to 12 weeks if you have 50 or more full-time employees. You also have military leave. So this is a number of different policies that contribute to military leave. There's an FMLA component to it. There's some other military policies that we have to know, and it's essentially for Reserve and National Guard units called to active duty, they have the rights with respect to retirement and health benefits provided by their employers. So oftentimes their pay will be subsidized by the organization, by the branch they're working that they've been called up for, but health insurance, retirement benefits cannot be discontinued during the period in which people are out on military leave. And then we have a number of other discretionary benefits. This is not a complete list. There are so many different benefits, and benefits are constantly becoming more and more creative and responding to society. And especially when you get down to smaller local organizations, there may be specific needs that you have within these locations that become part of a discretionary benefit policy. We got pensions, which is retirement, investing, a component of retirement, your health insurance, your disability, your PTO, your education program, some other discretionary benefits. My organization offers a home ownership program where if you're to help encourage employees to buy a home within the city's boundaries. That's another discretionary benefit that you may see. Let's talk about pensions. Pensions provide retired or permanently disabled employees with income through the remainder of their lives. It is essentially an agreement that organizations make with their employees that we're gonna you come work for us, you work hard, we're gonna take care of you down the line. That's the argument. In the public sector, pensions differ depending on what class of employee you have. So you may have a defined benefit plan, which is a pension plan that specifies the benefits or the methods of determining the benefits at the time of retirement, but not the level or rate of contribution, which is essentially upfront. You're defining what your benefit's going to look like, and then but you're not really dictating at that point the level or rate you have to contribute to. Then you have a defined contribution plan where the employer guarantees that specific contributions, usually a percentage of the annual salary, will be deposited to an employee's account every year that they work, and the accounts are invested. This is where you have a 401k, a 403b, a 457 is a version of this sort of plan. Pensions are a critical component of a particularly state and local government budget. So remember, with the federal government doesn't have to balance their budget, but state and local governments do. And having a balanced budget is a critical component of running running a government organization at the state or local level. When a state or locality is unable to balance their budget, is unable to pay for the obligations it is set up for itself, you end up with a place like the city of Detroit Public Schools, in the mid 2000s, where they declared bankruptcy. And the key reason behind that was their pension program, that they were unable to afford the continued pension because pension is something that stacks on top of each other, right? And so as you hire more employees are going to retire. Unfortunately, more employees are going to become permanently disabled, and you're going to have to hire new employees to replace them who will eventually become retired, and some, unfortunately, will be permanently disabled, yada, yada, yada. So it's constantly building upon itself. It's a cost that continues to add up over time. And so you have to be super, super strategic about how you're managing your budget if you offer these sort of pension plans. Then we have retirement vesting. Retirement vesting is a fascinating thing that I knew nothing about until I actually entered the workforce, but it's actually a really cool discretionary benefit that may be offered as it in regards to your retirement program. So vesting is essentially what happens when contributions made to a retirement plan officially belong to an employee. So the best way to think about this is you have a retirement or pension plan in which the employee is contributing 4% of each paycheck towards this plan. And then the organization says, cool, well, we will match that 4% and contribute 4% yourself, which is essentially 4% of your paycheck for free going into a savings plan. However, to prevent employees from just collecting this sort of retirement plan and moving on, there's often a vesting component to it, which means that if you leave an organization prior to a specific vesting date, you're actually going to lose a certain amount of your of the employer's component of the contributions there. That it's often year over year until you hit a certain year that if you were to leave, you actually are forfeiting a certain chunk of that invested retirement plan because you did not stay with the organization long enough. My organization in Commerce City, we are fully vested at 5 years with the organization. So most people you're going to talk about staying with the organization for at least 5 years until their retirement is vested, and then you see some people, wanting to leave or find different opportunities at that point. But for an organization that struggles with that year one, year two retention, the retirement vesting is something that at the very least can help retain employees to that 5 year mark. That's the idea behind it. This is part of the ERISA, the Employment Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. But vesting, fascinating benefit, a very creative benefit that's offered to both incentivize employees to work at a specific place and then incentivize them to stay for a certain amount of time. And then you have disability benefits. Disability insurance provides monthly benefits to employees who cannot work for an extended period of time due to injury or illness. Disability comes in two different forms. You've got short-term disability and long-term disability. Most plans will distinguish between a disability attributed to an accident on the job, which entails higher benefits and fewer requirements with respect to years of service, versus a disability that was not job related. Best way to think about disability is in terms of case studies, right? So short term and long term. Long term disability is often has a higher threshold. And organizations will often require you to use all your short-term disability benefits before you're eligible for long-term disability. So, for example, if you were to get injured in a car accident, not work-related, one of your benefits may be a short-term disability package, which is essentially saying I am disabled temporarily and am unable to perform the duties of my job. Therefore, my job is going to cover a certain percentage of my wages while I recover. There's often a lot of hoops that employers will make their employees jump through, especially if it's a non-job related accident. But this is something that's essentially in case shit policy, right? There's a lot of things that we'll talk about that fall into this in case shit happens bucket, but short term and long term disability are that in case shit policies. Long term disability is for you're unfortunate enough to be in an accident in which you are permanently disabled and unable to work. So an example, my sister-in-law is a bus driver with a public school district here in Colorado, and she was injured on the job and sustained some pretty severe injuries and has been unable to work for the past year and a half. She is on long-term disability through her school district. This is another one where it's a certain percentage of your pay that you're essentially offered for an extended period of time. Sometimes there's an end date listed that it's only so many years from the last day you worked. Most of the time, however, it's basically indefinitely, right? Until you have hit a you hit a health classification that makes you not permanently disabled anymore or something like that. But the other component you have to keep in mind here is whether or not employees were injured on the job. So there's significant hoops you would have to jump through. I used to work for, I spent some time when the pandemic first hit working for a leave management organization that managed benefits for different organizations, including some local governments and nonprofits. And there are a significant number of hoops that you will make people jump through in order to take advantage of their benefits. That's just an unfortunate reality of how a lot of these benefit packages are created, especially when taking advantage of short-term and long-term disability, because it's pretty much the most severe type of benefit that's being offered, that we're just paying you to not work anymore. And so there's a lot of hoops, a lot of paperwork, that sort of stuff. However, when an employee is injured on the job, those hoops tend to go away, tend to get a little bit easier, because offering long-term disability to someone who is injured on the job is generally cheaper than a legal settlement because the organization was sued by that employee. And so there's a vested interest. Once again, as altruistic as I want to assume these organizations are, they're not. There's always a business case to the different decisions that we're making. Then you have PTO, education programs. So PTO can be sick leave, can be vacation days, can be holidays, can be personal days, can be permissive leave policies. Anything that allows you to have paid time away from work. This can also be, if you're thinking education, this can be sabbaticals. Sabbaticals can be considered part of your PTO package. And then you have education programs. So this is tuition reimbursement, flexible scheduling to attend classes, and then information about continuing education tax credits as well. Um, the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up this section is the quality of work and the quality of life. Part of the purpose of a benefits package is not just selfishly to attract and retain employees. It's to help meet that mission of trying to treat your employees as people as opposed to as employees. And so um, having certain benefits in place that can help provide that human component to people as they work for your organization can improve quality of work and improve their quality of life. So you've got flexible benefits that are designed to meet individual cases for different employees. So you've got your dental care, you've got your domestic partnership benefits for unfortunately if there are policies in place in the location that you live that may not have um, benefits offered to same-sex partners, for example. And then you have child or elder care benefits that are helpful for employees who happen to have kids. Then you have employee assistance programs. This is counseling services for employees of their families. This is considered a preventative strategy as well because it's addressing issues for maintaining health and wellness for an organization. The idea is, and there have been studies that have gone into this, that the more money you invest in something like mental health services through an EAP, the it actually has a cumulative cost savings for your health insurance down the line because people are taking care of themselves, not having to take advantage of your health insurance. And then you have outplacement assistance. So this is resources and support for former employees if jobs are eliminated due to economic reasons. It's a little less common, but after the Great Recession in 2007, there was a huge interest in providing more support for employees who lose their job for no reason other than changing economic conditions. And then the new one, obviously, this is something that was being talked about, but definitely wasn't as central to the work experience as your flexible job environment. So it's, do you have flex time or flex location? Are you providing contract work? Are you rotation? Are you all working on rotations as opposed to different things? So this is all stuff that goes into allowing people more time to take care of themselves as people. Now, like I said, I told you we'd come full circle here. Um, each of these policies you can go through and you can kind of see who the target is, right? So let's take, for example, education programs, right? You're often using this to attract individuals who are either early in their career looking to continue their education or individuals um, in that mid 30s, mid 40s range that are wanting to advance in their career paths where they have been using education programs. You're not generally offering tuition reimbursement policies to help retain older employees. That's just not who is taking advantage of those benefits. We talked about the flex benefits like childcare. Childcare policies, offering childcare policies is not necessarily something that's going to help you attract younger employees. There may be cases in which that's the case, but you're not necessarily pitching childcare as a benefit for people straight out of college, for example. And then you have elder care policies. All of these different things have a different target audience within your workforce that you're helping to promote. One of the issues that we've run into and that we've talked about at length in this class is that we offer these policies and we pitch these policies, these benefits to people, and we say, why don't you come work for us? We have excellent benefits. When we talk about excellent benefits, we may have excellent health insurance, excellent PTO, excellent training programs. That does not mean, unfortunately, that does not mean that people are necessarily going to like that or going to be attracted to a workforce that offers those sorts of benefits. That's why these benefits packages are really important to design strategically. That if you're struggling to attract younger employees, you're not necessarily going to be pitching them on the quality of your expensive health program. Instead, you're talking about things like student loan forgiveness. You're talking about remote work opportunities. You're talking about flexible work hours. And so these benefits packages have to be strategically thought about to both understand the development and plan for your workforce currently and in the future, but then also to really understand as HR, our customers are our employees. And so, what are the customers truly asking for? And for a while, it was not better health insurance. It was not, 401k match, especially when it comes to younger individuals. It was that help with student loans. It was flexibility. It was, better work-life balance. These are the sort of things that you'll see. And so it's important to understand your workforce, what your customers need. Podcast posted on Canvas. A couple of guiding questions when you're talking about the well-being benefit program. So, a comprehensive well-being program may involve financial health training, physical health opportunities, mental and emotional health opportunities, community engagement opportunities, a sense of purpose, and a professional development. These are talking about your quality of life within the workplace. This is development of what we would call a culture of caring, an institutional well-being program, right, where people are taking care of themselves and taking care of others. And so, as you're thinking about this, think about, what do our customers want? What do our employees want? What are the SHRM considerations that we have to keep in mind when we have something like a well-being program? And then, how is it being implemented, and how do we assess the implementation of this sort of policy? That latter component is really critical, because oftentimes we will introduce new benefits programs, not collect ample data to understand whether or not employees are really liking it, and then we go out there and we're saying, I don't understand why people don't want to work for us. We have all these benefits, and we've never taken the time to assess whether they're the benefits that people actually want. So, excellent podcast to go listen to. Also, good to think about well-being programs like this. They are very, very good policies with very unique considerations, and so something to keep in mind. So, in conclusion, benefits are a critical component, particularly in the public sector, to attracting, retaining, and motivating our employees. Now, benefits have to be strategically considered, both our required benefits and our discretionary benefits. They have to be strategically considered based off of the workforce you have and the workforce you want to have. And then, the new one that we're seeing crop up now, that there will be ample research on in the coming years, talking about the promotion of work-life balance and what organizations really think about with stuff like this. Um, my last thing, feel free to shut off the recording at this point. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here to talk about. I posted a bonus resource earlier in the semester about this thing called a cytological contract. A cytological contract is essentially the agreement, the unspoken agreement that an employee makes with their employer, that says, if I work for you, I expect to receive these things in return. Employers have a similar contract with their employees, where they're saying, we expect a certain amount of loyalty, a certain amount of engagement with your work, because we're providing you with these benefits. One of the things that the pandemic made us understand is that that's actually, those two things are often not aligned. And so, the reason why this work-life balance then is going to be really fascinating to see where the research goes in the next couple of years, is because what we learned through the pandemic is that what employees thought was critical to their work, what employees thought was something that they were owed based off of the loyalty that they showed an organization because of their psychological contract, may not be the same as what the employer expected of them. So, the reason I'm on my soapbox is we're again talking about this concept of quiet quitting. We're talking about this concept of people no longer working the excessive amount of hours that they were used to work. They're no longer wanting to work for poverty wages. No longer wanting to work for organizations that don't provide the support and care to their employees that they feel like they need. And part of that is because employers during the pandemic violated the employees' psychological contract. Now, the important part is that the employers do not believe that that is the case because they have a different contract. At least, the organization thinks they have a different contract, right? And so when we're talking about work-life balance, what an employee thinks might be healthy work-life balance may not be what the employer thinks is a healthy work-life balance. So the best way to think about this is that the way I like to think about work-life balance is that as a salaried employee, unless there's a specific reason I need to be working out of traditional working hours, I do not work out of traditional working hours. But because I'm a salaried employee, if I do need to work out of those normal working hours, I do so willingly because it's part of my gig. Um, However, I have heard from older members, especially members in our leadership team at my organization, where they talk more about work-life balance being the weekends. Like, oh well, I will leave the weekends alone, but I will keep my phone on me. I will send emails at 8 o'clock at night during the week, but weekends I'll leave people alone. And so the way the organizations are going to promote work-life balance is going to be really fascinating to see whether or not they're actually listening to their employees and agree with them as to what work-life balance actually means. Anyway, that's my soapbox. I appreciate you all taking your time. I appreciate the work you put into this class so far. I've learned so much from watching all of your um, videos about your workforce plans to reading your discussions with each other regarding these different topics. I believe that we have created a very healthy online class culture, and that is a credit to you all. So I want to thank you. We will talk to you next week.